and amen. So, guys, meet me in the Song of Songs, chapter 1. Yeah, Song of Songs is where we are today. Thank you so much, man. You guys are, as Hammer would say back in the day, too legit to quit. So I'm grateful for that. Last week we started this series on the Song of Songs as we trek through for 10 weeks this summer. Our summer sermon series is really all about romantic rapture revealed. What does God have to say about romantic relationships? What does God have to say about attraction and dating and courtship and weddings, and what does marriage look like? And when we have our first fights, how do we fight fairly, and how do we resolve those conflicts, and how do we rendezvous and reconcile when we've had discord and disagreements in marriage? And then how do we have homecomings that are the happily ever after? The wisest man that ever lived wrote a whole book about sexual intimacy that teaches a woman how to make love to a man and teaches a man how to make love to a woman. What we've already learned and what we're discovering is that you make love to a woman's mind long before you make love to her body, and we've already seen that in week 1 of this series, and we're so blessed. Last week we were talking about attraction. This week, we're going to move into what the dating enterprise looks like. Next week, it's courtship. And so we're just going to keep moving along the continuum for these 10 weeks. Solomon is teaching us some great and amazing things. So if you have a journal, if you don't have a journal, please grab one at the welcome table. If you have the Reconcile app, the slides are in the Quorum Dale. You can follow along with me so you know exactly where we are. You don't have to take screenshots of what's up on the screen. You can just take a screenshot of the slides on your phone. So I checked the slides. I know that they're in there, so you guys are good to go for today. And then we'll have a Q&A time after church just to answer any questions that you guys might have. So I want to see real time. If you have any questions, you can text your questions, which we'll get to a little bit later. So anyway, let's get into the message. So our topic for today is dating. So this week I asked AI why dating is so difficult in 2026, and it responded with the following summary. Dating is increasingly difficult due to the dating recession, in quotes. The dating recession is a combination of app fatigue and financial strain and changing standards. People are filtering harder, moving faster, and experiencing severe burnout from the relentless cycle of swiping and ghosting and superficial matches. Here's a photo of a match app, and people can swipe up or down or right or left. I have no idea how it works. I've been with the same person for almost 28 years, so I have no idea how any of this works. But here are the four factors that make dating difficult in 2026, and I gave these to you in the next slide. The modern dating landscape is shaped by a few specific factors. Number 1, the illusion of endless options. Dating apps foster a consumer mindset where the fear of commitment is amplified because a better match feels like a swipe away. Number 2, financial and time constraints. The rising costs of going out and busy work schedules limit the energy and funds available for traditional commercial dating. The shift to peace over partnership. Both men and women have higher expectations for emotional reciprocity. Many are opting out of dating altogether because they refuse to settle for dynamics that don't add value to their lives. Interesting. And then the last one is app burnout. The large majority of users on dating apps feel emotionally drained by a constant rejection and superficial interactions, leading to risk-averse behavior. My heart goes out to all of our singles who are dating and seeking their future spouses. The landscape is clearly filled with obstacles, barriers, and impediments, but God has a divine design for what dating should look like, and we're going to look at that in the Song of Songs, chapter 1, verse 9 through chapter 2, verse 7. There are three sort of movements in today's text. The first one is we're going to talk about the person you choose to date, because God's got a divine design for dating, and we're going to look at how Solomon and his significant other, how they embarked on that enterprise. The first thing we're going to learn is that dating is a time of observation. It requires a time element, and we're going to see them go on two dates in today's message. One to a banquet hall and one just out in the woods somewhere under a tree, laying on some grass, maybe picnicking. Two dates in this one text. But dating requires, it's a time of observation. It's a time to analyze and to look at the person that we're dating to see if he or she is a good fit. Now, last week we left off with Solomon and his love interest, talking about in verse 8 of chapter 1, them wanting to go on this sort of rendezvous. You know, she said, Solomon, tell me where you will be with your sheep at noontime. Tell me exactly where you're going to be. I don't want to be out wandering and looking like a prostitute and putting myself in a precarious position. Let me know exactly where you're going to be. And then Solomon says, bring your goats, I'll bring my sheep, and it'll look like we're working tending to our flocks when we're really there to meet up and see each other. I told you guys about how I used to do that at work to get Stacy to come to my department because I wanted to look at her. And so you guys laughed at that. So I can relate to what Solomon did, because I did that with my wife before. She was my wife when we worked together. Now, Solomon is still talking this week, and he is praising his darling. And look at what he says. This doesn't seem like a huge compliment, but trust me, it is. Look at Song of Songs, chapter 1, verse 9. Solomon says, I compare you, my darling, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. I love this because in order to understand verse 9, it takes some horse sense in order to get the compliment. And we're not horses, and we don't hang out at the equestrian center working with horses, so we don't get it. The Pharaoh in Egypt, his chariots were pulled by white stallion, male horses that were born and bred to lead his chariots. These white stallions, the only reason they existed was to be in service of the Pharaoh. These were the greatest fleet of horses in the ancient world. They were trained, born, and bred to do one thing, and that's to lead the king's chariots. Well, these trained horses were all male, and a mare is a female horse. And I don't care how trained a horse is. When a female horse is nearby, that male horse's attention is going to be diverted from leading Pharaoh's chariot to focus on that female horse. Especially if that female horse is in heat. I don't care how long I've been doing this, how I've been trained, how I've been prepared. That attention and that focus is going to be on that female horse. And Solomon says, honey, your beauty is distracting, just like a female horse would be to the stallions and Pharaoh's and pulling Pharaoh's chariots. You distract me. My attraction and attention is on you the same way the horses, the male stallion horses would be attracted to a mare that crossed their path. Solomon is attracted to, he's infatuated with this woman, and it is a beautiful thing because this is exactly what God intends for our romantic relationships. And then Solomon promises this beautiful young woman who's naturally beautiful, and he says to her in 10 and 11, he says, honey, your cheeks are beautiful with jewelry, and your neck with a necklace. And then Solomon promises, I'm not sure who the we is, but Solomon says, we will make gold jewelry for you, accented with silver. Solomon says, hey, you're naturally beautiful, but there's jewelry that women wore in the ancient world that accents and accentuates her beauty. So he talks about her cheeks and her neck. Now, when they make love in chapter 4, he will start from the top of her head and go down to the bottom of her feet, talking about every feature of her body on their wedding night. But while they're just dating and while they're keeping it pure, he's focused on her cheeks and her beautiful neck. And then he will mention her eyes in verse 15. So Solomon here is affirming the beauty of his love interest, and he is saying to her that the jewelry that I'm going to provide you, because Solomon is a wealthy, extravagantly wealthy, rich king, and he's buying trinkets of jewelry for this very common woman that he is fallen in love with. And so here he is loving on her with gifts of jewelry. And he's going to provide more. Now, how does she respond to what Solomon has said about this rendezvous and about her beauty? Look at what she says as she responds. I love this. She says, while the king Solomon is on his couch, my perfume releases its fragrance. The perfume she's talking about is this perfume called nard. Nard was an expensive imported perfume worn by women at banquets because of its seductive charms. It was used in the ancient Near East as a love potion because of its erotic fragrance. And so she is saying that while Solomon is on his couch, this perfume, this nard, releases its fragrance. And look at what she goes on to say. It gets even more personal in verse 13. She says, the one I love, Solomon the king, is a sachet or a pouch of myrrh to me, spending the night between my breasts. The term myrrh, you guys remember this from the story of Jesus, that the three wise men brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh. This is the same myrrh that the wise men brought to the child Jesus as they celebrated the incarnation and his birth. But myrrh was an aromatic sort of resin which exudes from the bark from a myrrh tree, which is native only to Arabia and Abyssinia and India. It's an expensive luxury item which had to be imported to Israel. In its liquid form, it could be carried in small bottles like the nard, but it was also used in a solid form in which it was carried in a small pouch or sachet worn next to the body. The myrrh was mixed with fat and shaped into cones as it melted from the body heat, and the aroma of the myrrh and the anointing oil would perfume a woman's body because it had a very strong aroma which could last for long periods of time. Women wore it to bed to perfume themselves for the next day because of its beautiful fragrance, it was associated with romance. The woman says that Solomon's is a sweet fragrance. His love and who he is as a person is a sweet fragrance like myrrh in a pouch or in a sachet that lives or spends all night between her breasts. She says the same way this myrrh is a fragrance to me all day and all night. Solomon, your love and who you are, your character and the way you walk with God, that is a fragrance to me, and it's always with me. It's the sachet is right in between my cleavage. And she said, Solomon, you're always near and dear to me, just like this myrrh in this pouch. Wow, what a beautiful statement of how the impression that young Solomon has made on this woman. She goes on in verse 14. Look at this back and forth. Solomon speaks and then she speaks. And then in verse 14, she says this. She's not done praising him. She says, the one I love is a cluster of henna blossoms to me in the vineyards of En-Gedi. En-Gedi is a lush oasis in the midst of a desert wilderness on the southwestern shore of the Dead Sea, surrounded by a region. The surrounding region is a hot and bleak desert covered with a rusty haze and characterized by almost unbearable heat during most of the year. The lush oasis of the En-Gedi is the only sign of greenery or life for miles around, and it stands out as a surprising contrast to the bleak, dry desert wilderness around it. In the midst of this bleak desert wilderness is the lush oasis in which indescribable beauty is found. The lush oasis and waterfall brings welcome relief and refreshment to the watery desert, deserted traveler. Here is a map, and this is the area of the En-Gedi. This is the Dead Sea, and everything around here is just dead. There's no life anywhere around the Dead Sea. The sea itself is dead, but the En-Gedi is an oasis in the middle of the desert. Beautiful waterfall, streams, and she says, Solomon, you're like henna blossoms, these special henna plants. These blossoms were a highly sought after, delicate white and pale pink flowers, famous for an intoxicatingly sweet, musky, jasmine-like fragrance used in the traditional Middle Eastern and Indian perfumery to scent hair oils and bridal fabric. She says, Solomon, you are sweet. You are an oasis, just like the En-Gedi near the Dead Sea. You are refreshing to me, and you smell your life. The aroma of your life and who you are is just as sweet as the myrrh and the nard and now these henna blossoms. She is in love with this man, and everything about him just is a cologne, is a fragrance, his character, his integrity. Now, let me be honest. We talked about this last week. Solomon's probably a 10, right? I mentioned that before. He's not just a person of character, but he probably would have been the sexiest man alive. So he looks good, but he's a man of God and a man of integrity. And the way he treats her and the way he responds to her, his words of affirmation, his attraction, his affection is a blessing to this woman, and she is letting him know. And I love the back and forth, the fact that both the man and the woman are using verbal affirmation to lift up one another. Now, it's Solomon's turn. Don't get sick of this. The whole book is about this back and forth as they love each other. Why? Because God's trying to teach us something. That romantic relationships have to be a back and forth of love, affirmation, affection, and attraction. See what I did with those 3 A's? I'll work on that. That don't come naturally to me. That's to help you remember and to give you a mnemonic device. God cares about affection, attraction, and affirmation. All 3 of those things go together, and that's why we have a whole book about it. Now, we do great when we dating. But once we move to courtship and once we get married, then all of that attraction and affection and affirmation goes out the door. That's not God's divine design. That's why our marriages and our relationships are a train wreck, because we've lost the things we did when we first started dating. I told my wife this morning, I said, I'd just gotten out of the shower. I said, you know I'm crazy about you, don't you? She said, oh, yeah, I know. I said, you know that you all I need and all I want. Yeah, I know. Leave me alone. It's too early in the morning. I just got out of the shower and I knew she needed to get in there. Danica's blow drying her hair, but I just had to start the morning off with, honey, you all I want and all I need. And she's sick of me at this point. But I know that this is God's divine design. That's why I've been doing this for 28 years. Because this is how God wants it to be. Now, in verse 15, Solomon says, it's my turn. Okay, honey, you've praised me enough. Can I praise you now? In verse 15, he says, how beautiful you are, my darling. How very beautiful you are. Your eyes are doves. What does Solomon mean by your eyes are doves? We have no idea. And I put in my my notes here that there are 4 options to translate your eyes are doves. Does Solomon mean her eyes are as white as a dove? I don't know. Does he mean her eyes are as graceful as a dove in flight? I don't know. Her eyes are as agile as a dove? I don't know, maybe. Her eyes are as pure as a dove? Don't know. Scholars are divided on it. I don't think it matters. Whatever he meant, we'll have to get to heaven and ask him, but he attributes her overall beauty. You're beautiful. You are my darling, you are my lover, and there's something about her eye. So Solomon has said, your cheeks, your neck, now her eyes. As he undresses her, as I mentioned to you before, on their wedding night, he will start from the crown of her head and go all the way down to the soles of her feet. But here, as he can just see, because oftentimes women in the ancient world were covered from head to toe. And so he can't see her figure. All he can see is her eyes, her cheeks, and her neck. And so he praises what he can see. And so it's really beautiful that he affirms. We need to call out what we see. We need to address those things, and we need to speak to them and affirm what we see, because if you like it, you better talk about it. And so Solomon is teaching us that, and so is this wise woman who he's in love with. Now, just the A part of verse 16, the text says, the woman now chimes back in, and she says, how handsome you are, my love, how delightful. I love that she recognizes that he's handsome. He recognized that she's beautiful. So there's a mutual attraction in this dating relationship. Sisters, men desire compliments and need verbal affirmation as well. Because if you don't compliment him, another woman will. Believe you me, she will. And so we invite the enemy into our relationships by our unattentiveness. When you're dating or courting, you compliment and verbally affirm often, maybe too much to where it could be perceived that you're trying too hard. However, when you get married or your courtship period is prolonged, the compliments, the verbal affirmation, the positive reinforcement, the constructive praise becomes relics of a distant past. This summer, the Song of Solomon will teach us that our talk game that flows out of our genuine, authentic approval, acclaim, and admiration must be next level. And I think we don't think that is important. There's a lot of talking that happens in the Song of Solomon, and that's God's divine design. is that our talk game, our verbal affirmation, our constructive remarks about the virtues that we see in the person that we're falling in love with, we need to talk that through. But you know what, Pastor? I'm really quiet. I'm more of an introvert. I show my affirmation through actions. That's not an excuse. God has called us all to use our words for verbal affirmation. And then look at the first date that they go on. The B part of verse 16 and 17, the woman says, "Our bed is verdant. The beams of our house are cedars, and our rafters are the cypresses." Here, the scene is perhaps a picnic setting on green grass beneath them and green trees above them. In this woman's fantasy, the grass acts as their bed, and the branches above symbolize the rafters of their home. I tried to symbolize that with this video of this couple just laying out on a blanket on grass under the shade of these trees. Can you picture Solomon and the lover, the woman he loves, just out under the shade of trees, just enjoying a date? Take a cue from this couple. Here's some wisdom. Again, it's wise to restrict dating to populated and public places. They're not in Solomon's chambers. They're out beneath a tree in a public place where other people can walk by. If you want to maintain your sexual purity, restrict dating to populated public places. We said that last week. I'm going to say it this week, and I'm going to say it the next week, and the week after, and the week after, because we get in trouble and we find ourselves in precarious positions and removing clothing we didn't plan to remove because we were dating in spaces and places we should not. They're modeling for us how to date in public places where there can be accountability. Their rendezvous, if this is the same scene, is in a public place. Let me share this warning with you from the Symbis authors. We do premarital counseling at our church for couples, and we use the Symbis curriculum. Symbis is really an acronym for Save Your Marriage Before It Starts. And so we take couples through this premarital counseling material. And the authors, Les and Leslie Parrott, say this about dating. We're gonna look at excerpts, wisdom that they give us, because they've devised the most comprehensive premarital counseling assessment in human history. This is the couple that spent decades doing the analysis, and they wrote this program based upon their research. And here's what they say about dating. They say while dating, people initially put their best foot forward, ignoring each other's and the relationship's shortcomings. But after they tie the knot, hidden aspects of their personalities emerge, and idealized images give way to more realistic ones. This can lead to disappointment, loss of love, and ultimately to distress and divorce. So the wisdom in the dating scene is everybody is putting their best foot forward when you're dating. And I love this. When I was at 20th Century Fox Film Corp, I was there for 16 years. My last stint was at the cable network. And because I worked at the cable network, I had a TV at my desk. And so I was an admin. And so I listened to television shows all day while I worked. I worked at a computer, so I couldn't watch TV, but I could listen to it. So I had my headphones on. One of the shows I used to listen to every day, I don't know why, but it was Divorce Court. And I loved Judge Lynn Toller, just a brilliant judge. And listening to divorce court, I was married at the time, and I don't know what I mean. I had a lot of cable channels to watch, but I don't know. I just like listening to divorce court. And I remember one couple that was before Judge Toller, and the husband and wife were both complaining about idiosyncrasies and nagging about things in the other person that they didn't like. And after a while of watching them go back and forth complaining in divorce court, the Judge Toller, she stopped them and she said, wait a second, did you guys see any of this when you were dating? And the couple both looked at each other and said, no, we didn't see any of this. And then she said, I know what happened. Judge Toller said, you know the problem is that when we're dating, everybody is putting their best foot forward. Everybody's got the best foot forward that they want you to see. She said the problem is nobody's looking at the dysfunctional one that they're dragging behind them. That's how you end up in divorce court. She said, all of the stuff you complaining about, that was a lie. That was present then, but you didn't see it. Oh, but it's about that diseased, dysfunctional, and disturbing foot that they're trying to hide from you. That's the one you need to be looking at. So don't look at all of the qualities that are great. Don't get disillusioned, because in the Song of Solomon, oh, your cheeks and your neck and your character and your love is a fragrance. You better be trying to look behind them and see, what are they dragging behind them? What are they trying to hide from me? Because that's what's going to ruin your relationship. Not the best foot. No relationship ever ended over somebody's best foot forward. It's that diseased, dysfunctional, depraved one that they've been hiding from you for years, that they unleash on you, that you say, oh, I didn't know you had all that going on. I don't think I can do this. That was 15 years ago, one episode, and I remember it like it was yesterday. Because I don't think couples do a good job. Everybody's enamored by the best foot forward. But nobody's analyzing and looking at the one that they're dragging behind them that they don't want you to see. Or if you know about it, you make excuses for it, like the parrot said. Oh, you excuse it away. Or you justify, or you rationalize it until you can't handle it anymore, then it becomes a problem. The reality is, you should have saw it from the very beginning, and if you didn't see it, you should have, and if you did see it and you minimized it or you rationalize it, now it becomes Frankenstein and it becomes a problem. And then you're calling me as your pastor to help you figure all that out, or you go see Judge Toller to help you work through that. And couples counseling is great. It's healthy. My wife and I are in couples counseling, and it's one of the best decisions we ever made. So let me just give you that wisdom when you're dating. Enjoy the best foot forward, but please look at that one that they're dragging behind them. I just helped somebody today. All right, the next section, verses 1, 2, and 3 in chapter 2. The next section, the first section was dating is a time of observation. It's also a time for deeper levels of affection. Look at this as the couple goes next level in their relationship. The woman is still speaking. Look at what she says about herself. She says, I am a wildflower of Sharon, a lily of the valley. Now, older translations said that I am the rose of Sharon and the lily of the valleys. Roses weren't native to Palestine, and so they were imported, in the ancient, in Palestine, in the Holy Land, centuries after Solomon lived. So we don't think that rose is an ideal translation. Scholars think that a wildflower or a common flower that blossomed and bloomed in the Holy Land is more what she's talking about. Let me show you this on the map. Show you Sharon. The plain of Sharon is up here in this coastal area. This is the Mediterranean Sea. And this whole area from Mount Carmel at the top all the way down here is the plain of Sharon. There were common flowers, lilies and lotus flowers that grew in this area. And so the woman likens herself to a wildflower of Sharon, or a lily or a lotus of the valleys. What's interesting about this reference is that lilies and lotus and wildflowers were common, especially in the plain of Sharon, because of its proximity to the Mediterranean world and because of its access to water. Flowers could grow in the plain of Sharon. And she says the same way there are plenty of wildflowers and lilies in the plain of Sharon and in the valleys. I'm just as common and plain as those flowers. Nothing special about me. Remember last week she said I'm dark but lovely. She doesn't think she deserves Solomon's love. She's a regular Jane, and he's the king, the most powerful man in the world. And so we talked about last week, she's got some self-confidence, but then she's also got some self-consciousness. And so there's a paradox in this woman, because she had been tanned while she was tending to her family's vineyards. Now she says, Solomon, there's nothing special about me. I'm just a girl amongst the girls. Again, she vacillates between godly confidence and self-consciousness. But look at how Solomon affirms her. This is worth the price of admission. Look at what he says. Solomon says, "Nah." Solomon says, "My darling, you are a lily among thorns. So is my darling among the young women." Solomon says, "Okay. I'll take your analogy and I'm going to raise you one." He says, if you are just a common wildflower, then all of the other women are just thorns. That's how special you are. If you're just a regular old Jane flower, then all the other women, all the other maidens, are just thorns. So you, as the precious, beautiful flower, you are valuable to me, because all the other maidens I see are just thorns. I love this. Michael V. Fox correctly notes that this is not self-praise from the woman, but a very modest self-appraisal on her part. And Solomon ups the ante and says, no, you don't understand how precious you are. When I come in the house, ask my girls, I say, I got 4 precious girls. Because my wife is one of those precious girls. I got 4 of them. And they love that. That's how I come in the front door. And so here Solomon is saying to this woman that she is this precious flower. Brothers, similar to the admonition to the sisters, if you don't affirm your lover's beauty, some other guy will. Trust me, he will. So don't let the enemy into your relationship. You make sure that your talk game is legit, or step off. You don't deserve her if you can't affirm her. You guys with me? Again, her godly confidence in chapter 1 and verse 5, Solomon's perpetual affirmation, lifting her up and speaking to her insecurities and her vulnerabilities, affirming her self-worth, her dignity, her esteem. She's elevating her self-perception right before our very eyes. God's working on her heart. Solomon is lifting her up with her words. And when God is working on your heart and your significant other is lifting you up with words of affirmation, your own sense of dignity and worth and esteem can rise. Love that. Now she returns the compliment. Okay, Solomon, well, if the woman is a is a flower among thorns. And look at what she says about her man. She says, but baby, you are like an apricot tree amongst the trees of the forest. So is my love among the young men. I delight to sit in his shade, and his fruit is sweet to my taste. She says that Solomon is an apricot tree amongst the trees of the forest. No other fruit trees in the forest. So an apricot tree or an apple tree, based upon your translation. Apple trees, again, like roses, weren't native to the Holy Land. They were imported later on. And so maybe this is an apple tree, maybe it's an apricot tree. But she says, Solomon, you are a fruit tree amongst the regular old trees of the forest. You stand out like a sore thumb. And then she continues the tree analogy, and she says, I delight to sit in his shade. His reputation, his character, his integrity. I want to sit in that shade because he's a man of substance. He's a man of God. I want to sit in that shade. And then not only do trees give you shade, but fruit trees also give you fruit to refresh yourself with. And she says his fruit is sweet to my taste. So Solomon's uniqueness is that he's a tree, a fruit tree amongst the unfruited trees of the forest. And he also not only is unique, but he has utility because he provides shade and sweet fruit to taste. Now, if anybody would appreciate shade, you guys know it was this woman. Shade from the scorching sun in the desert region of Palestine was refreshing and rejuvenating and revitalizing. And this woman worked in the vineyard. Remember, that's how she got so dark but lovely. Her tan complexion. So if anybody appreciates shade, it would be her. Solomon's sweetness overwhelms her taste buds. This Solomon's fruit is analogous to the loving ways in which he treats her. The ways he treats her is sweet to her taste. A good indicator that couples are progressing in the right direction will be that they both recognize one another's insecurities and work to affirm and strengthen those areas. I love this quote that I gave you by Ian Provan, a professor. He said this, and this will come up on the screen. I love this because he talks about the power of verbal affirmation and how it redeems us and heals us. I love this comment. He says, this mutual affirmation, as he writes on this passage in the Song of Songs, he says this mutual affirmation is itself a direct means by which our healing begins, whether in general community terms or in the unique intimacy of a one-to-one committed relationship of marriage. None of us can ever receive too much affirmation from others of the reality that we are beautiful and beloved. I love that. No husband and no wife can ever offer the spouse too much affirmation of this kind in the midst of the intimacy of lovemaking, or be too frank in their language in doing so. It is one of the most direct ways in which the repression in our lives, along with the causes bound up with the consequences that flow from it, begins to be addressed and resolved. It is one of the means by which redemption and healing come to us. I love that quote because the professor is saying that we can never get too much verbal affirmation. It's impossible to get too much because it heals us and redeems us, especially in a world that's designed to tear us down and to make us feel inferior, self-conscious, and unworthy. We can never, ever get too much. Spend time and be in relationships with people that don't lift you up, that don't affirm you, that don't see God's gifts and God's blessings and your talents and your giftings and your contributions to the world and to your relational world and to your family and friends and your oikos and your sphere of influence. Hang around with people like that and they will drain you forever. Spend your time with people who lift you up, who don't tear you down. Now, this last section quickly is a transition from dating to courtship. Now they're starting a move. They're moving their transition, and how do we know? Because they go on this second date, and this one is an important one because this is to Solomon's world, and he introduces this world now to his relational world, and this is a big deal. Look at the public acknowledgement. The woman says that Solomon brought me to the banquet hall and he looked on me with love, or I like the translation that says his banner over me was love. Solomon brings this significant other to a banquet hall, a place where they shared alcohol and where they had a banquet and a feast and a fiesta. And this young woman is Solomon's date to this public event. And especially when the king arrives, they want to know who's on the king's arm. And Solomon brought her, and she feels honored by the fact that the king has brought me to a public place where he is seen by the dignitaries and by his family and friends and all of the people of his court. They would have all been present. And she says, his banner over me is love. Banners in the ancient Near East symbolize personality. Usually kings set up banners to reinforce their governing authority. So banners symbolize personality. They also symbolize presence. When a king occupied a residence other than his palace or his permanent residence, it signaled that everyone who saw the banner that the king was present in that residence. It also declared his power. Or the power of the deity of the king or the kingdom represented, because oftentimes the name of the god they worshipped was on that banner as well. Troops carried banners in the battle. Just like when we go to war, we carry our flags to say this is the United States or this is Iran or whatever. The same way we carry flags in the battle, they didn't carry flags, they carried banners to say we represent this king, this kingdom, and this God, and we coming to kick your butt. So the banner said who you were, who you represented, and what sort of power or authority you had. And the woman says, Solomon's banner over me at this banquet, at this feast, at this fiesta was love. The way he treated me, the way his affection, his attraction, his respect for me, his banner over me was love. I think that's so beautiful. Now, they had the little picnic in the grass under the tree. Now they're in another public place, but this one is a high stakes event, and Solomon is honored to bring her with him. Now, in verses 5 and 6, there are feelings, deep, passionate feelings of sexual desire. Look at what the woman says after Solomon has brought her on the second date, and his banner over her is love. Look at what she says in verse 5. She says, sustain me with raisins and refresh me with apricots or apples, for I am love sick. You know, according to the Cleveland Clinic, love sickness is a real phenomenon. Anybody ever been love sick? It's a real thing, though it's not an official medical diagnosis. Love sickness refers to a cluster of extremely negative emotional feelings and physical symptoms that can surface when you're unable to be with the person you love. People who are lovesick have a really difficult time tolerating the distance from their loved ones, regardless of the reason behind the disconnection. And she is lovesick, and she's asking somebody to sustain her with raisins and with apricots. Raisin cakes were used as cultic offerings by many ancient Near Eastern people. They were especially prominent in the ancient Near Eastern fertility rites. In ancient Israel, raisin cakes were eaten during festival celebrations, being viewed as enhancing sexual fertility. Scholars regard the raisin cakes as literal food, viewed as an aphrodisiac to cure her love sickness. They view it as a figurative expression of sexual passion for lovemaking, and as a double entendre, referring to the literal food as an aphrodisiac and her desire for lovemaking. So this woman is lovesick. She wants Solomon with every fiber of her being, and she is fainting and nauseous and unable to function because she wants him that bad. And then in verse 6, she fantasizes about this sexual encounter with Solomon. In verse 6, she says, look at this. This is interesting. This will happen again. She says, may his left hand be under my head and his right arm embrace me. The embracing of her is he wants his right hand to fondle her and caress her body. And she's dreaming about it. She can't have it, but she's dreaming about with one hand under her and the other hand just exploring her body. And she's lovesick over this issue. And sometimes when you're falling in love, the desire for sexual passion can become real, but I'm so grateful that we'll end right here at verse 7. This is absolutely critical to this message and to God's divine design. Sexual desire and passion and the feelings of it are normal and natural, and God is not against that, but God put verse 7 in here for all of us. Look at what it says. She charges these other maidens, the other young women. Remember, she's been talking to these other young maidens who want Solomon as bad as she does. She says, young women of Jerusalem, I charge you by the gazelles and the wild does of the field, do not stir up or awaken love until its proper time. Here she's asking and charging these other maidens who are not competing with her but are her comrades. She's charging them to hold her accountable to maintain her sexual purity. Look at the vivid imagery. She talks about gazelles and wild does. A wild doe is a female deer. Gazelles and deer are fleet of foot and they're easily agitated, kind of like her sexual desire. In her state of love sickness, she recognizes how vulnerable she is and she reaches out for help. Effective accountability to maintain sexual purity requires trustworthy cohorts. People who will hold you accountable to maintain your purity and not put yourself in precarious positions where you can overstep the boundaries of purity. She does that. She says, hey, I'm feeling lovesick. Man, if I had it my way, I'd probably lose my virginity here. But she says, sisters, will you hold me accountable? See, we need to have an understanding that sexual passion is extremely delicate, like gazelles and female deer. They're very agitated. They're easily frightened. And when they're frightened and when they're agitated, they take off running. And our sexual desire is like that too. When it's agitated, we run toward the thing for relief, for ecstasy, for rapture, for joy. And she charges the young woman, I need your help. This is essentially a do not disturb sign. You ever use those as door hangers when you check into a hotel? You don't want the staff bothering you. I always put the do not disturb sign on mine. I don't want them bothering me, knocking on the door, asking if I need more towels. I'm trying to sleep. And here she's putting the do not disturb sign on her relationship. She said, y'all don't wake up. Don't wake up, love, and don't arouse and don't get it started, because once the genie is out of the bottle, you can't get him back in. Once the toothpaste is out of the tube, you can't get that back in there. So don't go there. And she's put a do not disturb sign on her on her desire for sexual intimacy with Solomon. I love this because Frederick Beaker said this. This was a great quote. That's why I had to give this one to you. Frederick Beaker was a Presbyterian theologian, minister, and author. He said this. He said, contrary to Miss Grundy, sex is not a sin. Contrary to Hugh Hefner, it is not salvation either. Like nitroglycerin, it can be used to either blow up bridges or heal hearts. And I love that. That's why we need to be careful that we don't awaken and arouse this dangerous, beautiful commodity that God gave us, which is sexual intimacy. Because used in the wrong context, it can blow up bridges and it can blow up your life. In the right context, nitroglycerin, they use it, cardiologists use it to heal hearts. Same thing. There's some wisdom here for us. For all of us that are dating, for all of us that have kids that are dating, underage kids that want to date, nieces, nephews, cousin, there's some wisdom in here for us. Here are some takeaways before we get to the Coram Deo. Here are just some points about dating. Number one, dating is observation. We saw that in verses 9 through 17. It requires a time where you're just not having fun, but you're actually observing whether somebody has the character, the integrity, and the faith and the walk with God, so that they can walk with you. Remember last week, if they're not walking with God, they ain't got no business walking with you. Remember last week? That's what you're observing. But if when you're dating, if all you're doing is having good times anytime you need a payment. I was singing that yesterday because my girls were watching Blackish and they were parroting good times. If all your dating time is just having a good time, then you're wasting your time. Dating is not just about having a good time. It's about observing whether you should actually be moving forward with this person or not. Number two, dating is time allotment. It's an end in and of itself. Dating doesn't have to go anywhere. It's cool to stop dating somebody. But you got to put the time in so that you can make an informed decision about whether whether your dating should move from dating to courtship. Because we start with attraction, right? Last week. This week, we're dating. Dating, in order for you to know whether you should be married to somebody, the Simbis people say you need to invest at least 2 years. So it's time allotment. Do you really know enough about this person over the course of 2 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years to know whether they're marriage material or not? Now, it doesn't take you 2 years to know you got a fool and you should run like hell, as my Uncle Sonny would say, in the other direction. It don't take you 2 years to know you dating an idiot. But it'll take you 2 years to know you got somebody good. Because you need to see them in a wide variety of different circumstances and situations. You need to see them in grief. You need to see them when things are going well. You need to see them in crisis. See them when they've lost something important to them. See them when the waiter screws up their order over and over again. If you haven't seen them in a wide variety of different circumstances and situations, then don't pass judgment that that person is marriage material yet. You got to put some more time in. Stacy and I were together 5 years before we got married. Now that's too long, but we had extenuating circumstances. But when I married her, I knew what I had. That's why we're still together. Now I don't recommend that to anybody, but that's the way it worked out for me. So it requires time. Dating is no strings attached. Again, it's non-exclusive. You should be dating people. You should, again, you don't have to move on to courtship. You don't have to move on to marriage. It's cool to just say, hey, this isn't working out. I don't think we're compatible. And bye, Felicia, and move on. It's okay. Dating is also marketing. You're trying to get your brand out there, and you're suggesting who you are and what you're about and what you bring to the table and what you're looking for. So it's a marketing enterprise. And so we can talk more about that in the Q&A or on Wednesday. But here were my takeaways from the sermon. And then, again, if you guys want to hook up Wednesday, I'll log on. If you don't, I'll log right back off. But here are my big ideas from the message. Number one, as dating progresses toward courtship, it should increasingly showcase mutual attraction, affection, and affirmation. That should increase over time, not decrease. God's divine design is that you're more crazy about each other as you move forward, not less. Number two, dating is a critical season in the romantic life cycle that requires time, maturity, and keen discernment. I think the reason why dating doesn't work out and why people are struggling is because they don't have the time to devote to it, they don't have the maturity, and they don't have the discernment. And if you don't have the maturity and the discernment, you shouldn't be dating, and that's okay. Most people under age 21 don't have the maturity and don't have the discernment to know what they're looking for. That's just a fact. And so if you don't have those virtues, you have no business being out dating. None whatsoever. Number three, maintaining sexual purity in the dating and courtship phase is a team game and not an individual sport. This woman needed help because she was lovesick and she was going to make a mistake without somebody holding her accountable. And we need people that will hold us accountable, ask us hard questions, and help us maintain our purity. If you're trying to do it on your own, you're going to fail. But if you have a cohort, a group of people that are trustworthy and who love you and believe that you should maintain your integrity while you're dating and courting, then you need to enlist others to help you. Let's pray and then we'll get into our Q&A. God, thank you for this message. Thank you for the wisdom of Solomon that we are learning in this place. God, we're grateful that this man of God left us this treasure trove of wisdom content about how to love each other, how a man and a woman are to be attracted, how they are to affirm and to be affectionate toward one another. God, may we soak this up like a sponge. May we realize that we have no clue in our culture about dating, courtship, and marriage. We've screwed it up royally. But God, we've come back to your divine design for what this needs to look at. And so as this couple went on 2 dates in this passage, God, thank you that we can glean some knowledge and wisdom about dating and how to make it work. So God, would you bless us as we put this into practice, show us how to do it and how to do it well, ultimately, God, for your glory. So use us and may our lives reflect the fact that we have trusted you to do this your way, and we reject the temptation to try to do this our way. God, may you get glory from our romantic relationships. In Jesus' name, amen.